The foyer light hums as she kneels beside the lacquered tray, lifts one brass key from the ring, sets it blade down, then traces a single arc of coarse salt around it before brushing her palm over the spill as if soothing a wound. The grains catch the chandelier's shimmer and fall silent. The house holds its breath. Why guard a key like that? She straightens, letting the soft rustle of her apron settle with her breath. The ring of keys clinks once as she turns, arranging them back on the tray with practiced care. Each notch, each worn nick is a memory of doors opened and rooms refreshed. Her fingers skim the lacquered surface, leaving a faint sheen from the palm she just placed on the salt. Habit, reverence. Beyond the foyer, the hallway mirrors reflect the chandelier's glow, the plaster medallions catching the light as they always do before the day blooms. She nods slightly toward the staircase, as if acknowledging its constant presence, then reaches for the oil-stained cloth waiting atop the walnut console. A gentle swipe removes the last breath of dust from the brass rail, where her reflection ripples briefly before the polished surface settles. Somewhere far above, a grandfather clock counts patient seconds, its steady tick matching the house's heartbeat. The air smells faintly of citrus polish, and the linen she starched this morning, a scent that belongs to this room as much as the echo of her steps. She lifts the tray again, placing it on the low table beside the umbrella stand, each movement precise, unhurried. The salt circle remains, undisturbed. Proof that ritual, too, is part of how the day begins here. Alex pushed the back door open, humid air clinging to the cotton of his shirt. He dropped the mail on the counter, eyes going instinctively to the pill organizer, before he even set the kettle down. The morning compartment gaped open and empty. He straightened, ran a hand through his hair, then rattled the plastic box. Nothing. Not a single orange capsule. He spun toward the living room, calling, "Sam, did you grab the meds?" Sam didn't answer right away. The desk by the window held a crooked stack of reports, a coffee mug with a lipstick ring, and the tablet where they tracked the day's appointments. The tablet's screen glowed with a calendar entry dragged 2 hours later than it had been yesterday. Sam stood on a chair, one foot tucked behind the other, hands fussing with a drawer that refused to slide all the way open. When Alex reached her, she pulled it free with a hiss of frustration and dumped the contents on the floor. A bank of paper clips, a dried-up marker, a single glove. "I moved the times," Sam said without looking up. "The therapist couldn't make noon. I slid everything back 30 minutes. Her voice scraped like the drawer. "I wrote a note, but the stack got flipped." She gestured to the papers now scattered across the desk. Meeting notes, receipts, Sam's own list of tasks, all tilted as if swept by some errant breeze. Alex crouched, gathering the notes. His fingers hovered over one with a margin scribble. "Check meds before leaving." He didn't say it aloud. He stood, heard the tremor in his own breath, and nudged the couch cushion with the tip of his shoe. The cushion slid, revealing the remote he hadn't lost yesterday but assumed misplaced. He lifted the corner, and between the couch and the armrest, the pill bottle rolled into view, upside down, now hollow. Sam lowered herself from the chair and crossed the room, her face a shadow of something between defiance and fatigue. "Maybe I took them last night and forgot," she said, then laughed sharply, a sound with corners. "Maybe I packed them for the appointment." She reached for the bottle, tipped a few pills into her palm, then stopped, looking at the empty organizer on the counter. Alex shoved the pills back, closed the drawer, and slid the organizer to the other side of the counter, closer to where Sam brewed tea now. "Leave it there," he said. His voice had no tremor now. The action steadied him. "We'll start with the calendar. If the therapist called, we need to know what Sam agreed to." Sam nodded, grabbed a sticky note, and peeled it off the calendar wall. I'll write the new slots in bold. No more half-hour guesses. She pressed the note down with the heel of her hand, the paper curling slightly, then stood straight, the air between them thick enough to slice with the edge of the calendar frame. Alex opened the file drawer again and pulled the paperwork he'd sought half an hour earlier, only to find the tab entries shifted, the labels now swapped between two folders. He relabeled them, the motion precise, then shoved the drawer closed. "We'll double-check tonight," he said. "Everything has to land somewhere until we can see the pattern." Sam grabbed the marker, uncapped it, and underlined her new entry twice. "No more mornings without the meds," she said, the tip pressing hard enough to dent the paper. She slid the calendar back into place. "I'll stay until 6 if I have to." Alex watched her for a beat, the way her shoulders lowered slightly, the tension leaking out through release. He reached out, patted her shoulder, and turned toward the hallway, already planning the next check. The small messes now had files and pills that needed realignment, but they were looking at them together. The house no longer operated on autopilot, but they still knew how to light the way forward. Alex set the kitchen timer, jotted the minute in the margin of the ledger, and slid the thin black notebook out of the drawer. A list of times and names already filled the top half. Every entry, a tiny accusation. He whispered the new column, heading aloud. Signatures. Nora came through the front door with a basket of damp towels, the hallway air pressing damp wool scent against him. She glanced at the notebook and narrowed her eyes, hand going to the banister as if to steady herself. "Evening rounds, Mr. Carter," she said, as if the corners of the house were suddenly new. She moved toward the office, a deliberate path that left the kitchen slightly askew. A dishcloth draped over the sink, the timer still blinking. Alex followed 5 steps behind. Inside the office, Nora opened the lower drawer, the one labeled taxes, though the label didn't match anything inside. She reached for the thin blue binder, a financial folder, and slid it onto the desk. Her fingers hovered over the top sheet, then pulled it back, tapping the binder closed. She lifted the envelope from beside the lamp, her thumb pressing a sticky note to the flap that read, "Sign off before mail." Alex stepped closer. "You left this in the hall last time," he said, voice low. Her smile was quick, practiced. "I moved it so it wouldn't get crushed. Always the same line, Mr. Carter." She reached for her own clipboard, not meeting his eyes. She left the folder on the desk, but didn't close the drawer completely. A sliver of manila peeked out, numerous receipts inside, each with a scrawl. Alex eased to the side, just far enough to see the page on top. Signatures lined the margin, but the strokes changed mid-page, a flourish in the middle that didn't match the neat, deliberate script on the rest. He placed his hand on the back of the chair, felt the heat of her body just out of reach. "Was this signed already?" he asked, gesturing toward the bottom of the page. He kept his tone flat. She shifted her weight from one foot to the other. "You know how the bank wants it. Every paycheck needs a sign-off before the courier leaves. I run the routes, I sign for the notice." She began closing the drawer. He moved his fingers to the spiral-bound notebook on the desk, revealing the list of times between each entry. 14 minutes between deliveries this week, he said, tapping the last 2 marks. Last night it read 3:07, today it's 3:21. Same folder. Nora's breath hitched, a small hitch that barely registered. "Traffic. The route is different." She reached for the folder again, but Alex was faster. He slid his hand under it, separating the stack from the rest. In the gap was a horizontal stamp, a waiting signature, and a clock face smudge at 3:17. His pen hovered over the notebook. Then he wrote, 3:17, Nora, financial folder delay. Keep the folder where the courier sees it, he said, holding the binder out. No notes in the hall. She took it with fingers that didn't tremble. She asked me about travel itineraries again. What dates you were out of town, where the passport was kept. Even asked if I knew when you last switched flights. Said she needed to sort the house while you were away. Alex pins her with a slow stare. Did she mention why she needed the passport? Only that she already adjusted a few things, making sure you kept the same doctor when you moved up your meetings. She said, I take care of the shifts before you even know they're missing. Janine's words land like a dropped tray. She lifts her hand, rubbing it over her own wrist where the watch sits exposed. You need to be careful. She hadn't said stuff like that before. Janine leaves with a warning, and Alex drags the recorder over from the drawer where they keep Nora's recorded hours. The newest file is time-stamped from yesterday afternoon. Alex slides headphones on. The clip starts with the low hum of the hallway, then Nora's voice, warm and deliberate. We're keeping her grounded. No last-minute trips, not after I move the calendar. Adjust the therapy appointments so she thinks it's routine. She sits with me every Sunday now, trusting the little schedule helpers, Nora says. When she's on the couch, remind her to pop the medication in the organizer. It's all about the small, steady adjustments. We turn up the pressure in microdoses. Alex's hand grips the edge of the table until the wood creaks. The clip rattles on, mentioning a signature pad next to the financial folder. I leave it there, delayed, but she doesn't stop sliding through. Alex rewinds and isolates the moment where Nora lists her deliberate moves to influence departure dates. Each adjustment is spoken almost cheerily, like she's describing rearranged cushions. Without thinking, Alex stands, fingers flying over the keyboard to open the calendar app. They drag tomorrow's flight confirmation from pending to needs review and drop a red flag on the folder Nora usually touches. The action is small, but it feels like rewinding a clock. The flights remain on screen, unsent. The house feels heavier, as if the walls had heard the clip too. Alex slides the audio file into a new folder labeled Do Not Open Until. Then they open the notifier app and set a silent alert. If Nora tries to touch the financial drawer before 5 p.m., the phone will buzz violently. That buzzing breath is Alex's relief. Another layer of awareness, another small win. They don't know everything yet, but now there's proof of the adjustments and neighbors ready to watch. A roadblock to the harmless story Nora always told. Light spills through the blinds, and Alex watches the shadow across the floor, waiting to see if the housekeeper will make the next move. The locksmith mutters under his breath as he tightens the last screw on the deadbolt. The old brass has been ripped off the frame, jagged wood revealing where someone forced it open before. Alex runs a finger along the new brushed steel, the lock clicking solidly under the weight of the key. The installer hands over a crumpled receipt and a thumb drive with the lock code logs, then walks down the porch steps, leaving Alex standing in the doorway with the smell of sawdust and a fresh sense of perimeter. In the kitchen, the laptop hums under a stack of medical paperwork. Alex drags the audio file into the player and the room fills with Nora's voice. Calm, almost conversational, telling someone about adjusting the meds and pushing the appointments back so that Alex would need her around. Alex pauses the player when her tone turns colder, rewinds, then starts it again, letting the confession loop twice. When the tape mentions the tampered prescriptions, Alex lifts the child-proof cap from the bottle on the counter. The blister pack inside is a different brand than the refill notice. The pharmacist's number scribbled on the box leads nowhere when Alex calls, but the pharmacy assistant answers with a new batch being held for verification. The screen of the phone lights up with the doctor's contact before Alex has a chance to hang up. "Bring the bottle down," the nurse says. "I'll flag it with the pharmacy." Alex snatches the bottle with the missing pills, steps past the front hall where the new locks gleam, and shoves the bottle into a paper bag. The nurse repeats the dosage, the original label from last week. Then pauses, hearing the background noise, someone at the door. "Do you need me to come up?" the nurse asks, and Alex just says, "No, stay there. I'll send a picture." The line clicks off, and the bag dips as Alex walks back toward the living room. Nora's shoes squeak on the tile before she announces herself, carrying a grocery bag that smells faintly of citrus. Alex doesn't move. Nora sees the laptop, the open audio window, the bag in Alex's hand. "You weren't supposed to hear that," she whispers, her breath sharp and measured, like she's still the one setting the pace. Alex taps the space bar, and Nora's voice fills the room again. But this time the pause between words stretches thin with the knowledge that the confession is playing in the very air she's breathing. Nora's mouth ices shut until Alex lifts the tampered bottle off the counter, slides it toward her, and says, "You can show the nurse where the pills went." Nora clenches her jaw, reaches out once, and then pulls her hand back. Her shoulders pull tight. "I was keeping you safe," she says, the words falling like a challenge, not a justification. Alex lets the sound of the recording wash over Nora a third time before shutting the laptop, the cursor stopping on the waveform that spikes right at the part where she admits to the schedule changes. "You can't hold the file drawer again," Alex says, pointing toward the locked cabinet by the desk. "I'm calling the bank later." Nora's eyes flick to the cabinet, back to the circle of light from the screen, then down to the new deadbolt that hums with the sound of the door finally closing when Alex pulls it shut behind her. Alex takes out the phone, texts Janine a screenshot of the audio, and watches the tiny scene appear. "Locked, documented, and reported," Alex says, whispering, though Nora is still in the room. The air thickens for a heartbeat, and then Nora exhales, sharp and breathless, a sound that feels like surrender and defiance all at once. Alex slides the dossier across the glass coffee table, the sunlight catching the tabs that list each meddled appointment, each swapped prescription, each delay timed to Nora's signature. Detective Rios leans in, fingers tracing the page that ties Nora's childhood grievance to the homeowner she once trusted. "She didn't just want control," Rios says, eyes on Nora. "She wanted the story back." Nora's hands tremble around a mug she left untouched since morning. She keeps staring at the audio waveform on Alex's phone, the one where her voice admits rearranging flights and prescriptions to keep Alex uncomfortable. "It was for your own good," she says. But her voice cracks when the recording plays loud enough to drown her own words. "She got scared," Alex cuts in, voice tight. "And she wants you gone." Alex sets the thick folder on the polished table in the attorney's conference room. The cover reads, "Final Evidence," in block letters, the binder clips already marked with dates and timestamps. Maya, legal counsel, slides her laptop around, opens a secure document, and taps through the tabs. Camera stills, audio clips, verification letters from the pharmacist. She doesn't need Alex to explain. Her eyes flick to the timestamps and back. Every contact log, every altered appointment. Maya says, voice low but steady, "This is enough." She pulls a page and slides it toward Alex. "Sign here. Permanent access revocation, notification to building management, and the restraining motion." The pen hovers above the line. Alex's hand tightens around it, then signs. Maya's finger points at the next section. "We can file before noon. The court will issue the order, and I'll have Detective Rios deliver the paperwork." On cue, Alex's phone buzzes. Detective Rios texting that the officer is en route. Alex keeps the phone face down but glances once at the message. Once the order is in hand, I'll paste the notice on the door myself, Alex says. The words are steady but clipped. No more negotiating, no more delays. Maya nods, closing the laptop. I'll also notify the property manager that any keyings, anything else tied to Nora, stops today. The elevator ride up to the house is all motion. Locksmiths already waiting outside, hard-hatted, gloved, dragging a toolbox. Alex meets them with a new set of instructions. 3 independent locks replaced with smart codes tied to emergency services, motion sensors deployed on the porch lights, and security cams repositioned to cover every entry point. No one gets through the basement either, Alex says. I want the code shredded after the install. The locksmith slides the panel off the old deadbolt, exposing the bare cylinder. They work in silence, metallic clicks, and the hiss of the electric driver filling the air. Inside the foyer, Alex pauses at the doorway, eyes sweeping the walls where Nora once hung schedules and sticky notes. Now there's a small stack of envelopes, one labeled legal, another security, a third for the neighbors. Alex gathers them. Stepping onto the porch where Janine waits on the curb, arms folded. If Nora shows up, Alex tells her, you call me, then you call the officer. Do not let her in. Janine nods stiffly, then adds, I've already told the other neighbors to keep their cameras aimed away from me. The locksmith taps the final screw home, and the new smart lock chimes. On the porch, Alex places a laminated notice declaring that access is revoked and trespassing charges will follow. The word no entry stares back, stark against the midday sun. Officer Rios arrives, badge still shining, carrying a folder stamped court order coming through the contractor's door. Alex hands over a copy, breath staying even now that the paperwork is in motion. As Rios lifts his radio, Alex presses a slow thumb over the folder, feeling the ridged edges. Maya's voice crackles from the conference call. We'll double-check the entry. I'll also alert the HOA that the notice is active. Alex exhales and steps inside, closing the front door on the scene behind with a definitive click. The new locks engage, and the house settles into a silence that feels like a held breath finally released. The front hall, stripped of any pretense of calm, felt the hush of a verdict. Nora, shoulders slumped, had stopped speaking when Janine slid the thin speaker across the table. The tremor of her own voice, confessing the shifts and delays, now filled the air like a witness. Officers guided her past the newly locked door where, beyond the glass, the locksmith's handiwork glinted and a laminated notice bore a single sharp command. Alex stood near the window, a hand resting on the edge of a folder that still smelled faintly of ink and betrayal. The pharmacist's empty bottle lay in the palm of a uniformed man, the doctor's call eclipsing any denial. Janine, eyes bright with the shock of a neighbor's protection, took the notice and held it as if it were an oath. Nora crossed the threshold with 2 guards, leaving behind nothing but the echo of her own desperation and a slowed heartbeat of the house. Alex exhaled once, deeply, letting the silence settle like snow over the ruined trust, then turned toward the calendar, toward the next flight now marked with an alert that would never again be silenced by subtle fingers.